ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so hi folks, Nathaniel here at Chicago Music Exchange.
Can we start over? I was so like taken by your performance that
Can we just get that noise that he did? What have we got today?
we're gonna talk about Mosrites. This whole thing started. I wanted to make a video of this guitar because I thought it was so cool. But then we got a bunch of other ones, so I was like, why don't we just gather them all and have you make some noise with all of them, and we can talk a little bit about their history because it's such an interesting company. It's kind of an underdog. You know, it's not one of the top 3 brands that you think about when you think about guitars, but I mean, some major players have played them, and it has such a colorful and interesting history.
You know, I've always loved the shape of them because I mean it's wacky. It's almost like a cartoon guitar from the '60s or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean that in a good way. Do you know?
Sure.
I'm not saying it in a bad way. It's very cool.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the biggest misconceptions about Mosrites, from just talking to people here through the years, is that, oh, it's such a '60s and '70s thing. And I mean, of course, that's when they became big, but it surprises people to know how early Mosrites have been around. They actually started in the mid-50s. Semie Moseley is the person, the founder and the original builder. His guitars are famous for this German carve around the edge, and you know, it's not like Rickenbacker invented that, but Rickenbacker has a few guitars that, I mean, the German carve has been around for a long time, and orchestral instruments, I mean hundreds of years before, but Semie Moseley worked at Rickenbacker. And, you know, some people would argue that, you know, maybe he got this idea from some of the Rickenbacker models. But the other person that he interned for, or maybe worked for, I don't know about the details exactly, is Bigsby. And that may have something to do with his very famous trem systems that he made. Some of the early Mosrites, very early ones from the 50s, were all ornate and custom order only, basically. I mean, he was making them out of his garage. Very few at a time. And the thing that kind of really pushed him to be more well known was very intelligently made a 3-neck guitar. I think it was 3 necks. I know he made a couple double necks, but I think the first one that he gave to Joe Maphis was a 3-neck guitar. 3. Yeah. Jeez. And Maphis, of course, was a personality on television. Yeah. I mean, if somebody out there hasn't looked up a video of Joe Maphis playing back in the day,
do so now.
You definitely should.
Pause this video.
Yeah.
Check out a different one, and then come back.
OG shredder. I mean, just like unbelievable playing. Yeah. He could work play his way. He could play. Yeah. 3 necks was no big deal.
Easy. Yeah. Now, you know, I've always wondered with these necks is, I mean, if someone out there has never played one of these, I think they're in for a bit of a shock. in regards to the neck.
The first time I picked one up, I was definitely shocked.
Yeah.
I was just like, what? This is so...
It's tiny, but I've grown to love it. You know, like learning the Joe Maphis piece, Flying Fingers. It's like it's easier on here. And I've got to say, the pickups, the middle position sounds amazing. It's got that sound.
Yeah, the pickups are very cool. I was going to say unique, but I got to be careful with that because a pickup is just, you know, wire wrapped around a magnet.
Yeah.
So I mean, conceptually they're all very similar, but everybody has their own little, you know, secret ingredient in their pickup sauce. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're known to be very hot. You know, you look at them and you immediately think kind of a P90.
Yeah.
So, but if I try not to do that and say, oh, it's very P90-esque, because who knows what the hell that means.
Yeah.
But they are hot single coil for sure.
Right.
And I'm gonna say it kind of like a P90.
Kind of like a P90.
Yeah.
There you go.
But internally though, they're unique because it was a pickup that pretty early on was already. The back of them, it's encased in epoxy. And one weird thing about these guitars that you should definitely know if you own one is this neck. If the neck, the construction is so amazing because in terms of fret access, right, the cutaways pretty much meets at the last fret, so you have access to all the frets. But this is a bolt-on guitar. So these bolts have to go into this neck somehow, but if the neck ends here and the bolts are down here,
right,
what's going on?
Yeah.
There's a tongue that extends below the pickup. So these screws that hold this neck in place are actually going dangerously close to the actual bottom of the pickup itself.
Wow.
So if you've used other screws or anything like that that are longer, you'd literally be
in the pickup.
In the pickup. Yeah.
Now, the double neck, we've got a bit of a different colour going on here. It looks great.
It's a refin. So I bought that guitar from another dealer at a guitar show, and I'm such a sucker for the Joe Maphis double necks. Now this is not a Joe Maphis. The Joe Maphis model is 12 string up top and 6 string on the bottom. This is obviously a bass on top and a guitar on the bottom. Now the weird thing about this is that it has been heavily customized by somebody. It was refinished. I think maybe, and I don't know this for sure, like that's not original. That's obviously not original. It's possible that this was backwards at some point.
Right.
Because these were bolt-ons, but if you turn it around, you'll see that they made them that you can, if you look closely, you can see the holes.
Oh yeah, you can,
where the screws and the plate used to be.
Yeah.
But that's now gone, and those necks are now glued in place.
Right. And it's interesting to know of some of the people who played these guitars. I didn't know Jerry Cantrell played them a little bit.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't know. I mean, I'm going to trust Google.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what it said.
I've never found anything on the internet that was incorrect. So,
which is correct in itself.
Yeah. I mean, they only post true facts
on the internet in general. It's all truth.
Yeah, absolutely. The Ramones,
I was going to say.
It's just such an interesting guitar company in that sense, because although, of course, other guitar companies have a very wide palette and wide variety of genres that they cover, artists that play their instruments, you know, this had to start with like OG country you know,
shred,
television shredders, you know, like Bigsby style ornate guitars on black and white television. And, you know, just, but then the Ramones, it's like, what? That's amazing.
How did that transition
I know,
happen?
Who knows? But the Cantrell thing, I still can't believe. I really want to see footage of that.
So do I.
But who else? Of course, Joe Maphis. We already talked about that. He actually had a signature. Oh, well, speaking of signature series, the Ventures, obviously.
The Ventures, yes.
Yeah, now the Ventures were, it says it right there, right? Yeah, right there. The Ventures were a powerhouse back in the day in terms of, they were extremely prolific. I mean, you can't walk into a record store and not, you know, go through a stack and find a Ventures LP. They're everywhere. They put out so many records, and they were, you know, it was a guitar band. You know, it was, it really is, and it speaks in volumes that this band that put out all of this incredibly, you know, I mean, cool arrangements and very, very cool guitar music. They're all standing on, you know, their album covers with their Mosrite guitars. At one point in time, and this part of the history of this company is confusing to me because it's just kind of all over the place. But he made incredible guitars, but eventually the company went bankrupt. But I'm pretty sure his daughter, or one of his daughters, continued making guitars. He sold, I think, the rights for a Japanese company to continue making some of the models, or one of the models, and eventually his daughter, Dana, I believe is her name, ended up working at that factory, and I think winding the pickups, something like that, with the guitar. So it continued even after the original American Mosrite company went out of business. But then there were lawsuits involved because that Japanese company didn't want other Japanese companies making copies.
Yeah.
And that's just mind-blowing to me that again, we're not talking about a Gibson or a Fender here, right? We're not talking about a burst. I understand why people make copies of something that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, but these guitars, especially back then, were not worth that much money, and yet people were making counterfeits. And the only reason why people do that is out of admiration. Well, money, of course, they want to make money. But they clearly revered these instruments enough to think it's worth making a copy of.
Yeah, it's a compliment.